Hey, this is Mike Byrnes with another episode of Business Bests. I am so psyched to bring you some more ideas to hopefully be successful. This is a part 2 to the last recording we did about how to use cause-related marketing to increase your success. I'm a big believer in it. Hopefully you've done a little research and found that it will help you. And if you do know it will help you, if you see all the statistics out there, I hope that you actually make it part of your plan. But in the last episode, we talked about cause-related marketing and how it helps you make great client connections and can really get you to have like this intimate relationship with your clients. They'll never leave you. They'll want to brag about you. And it's something that's just not on the surface. That relationship has gotten much deeper. So it can be really valuable with that. I will say, with cause-related marketing, there are a lot of red flags, a lot of things that you can do wrong. And the list is so long that I've created 15 things for you to think about. And number one is not bragging. The people that are boastful and do this for the wrong reasons, it's so obvious. And it actually kind of makes you want to throw up, and it actually has the opposite effect of what you're trying to do, right? You're in a situation where you're, as a business person, you're trying to bring these people closer, whether it's clients or prospects, and now you've like turned them off and you've damaged the relationship. So you have to be so careful to do this in the right way and really to do it for the right reasons, and that will come across if you are doing it for the right reasons. So I will kind of give the opposite advice at the end of this. Like, you don't want it to be a secret, you need to get it out. But really be very careful. So if you have any communications around this, do the sniff test. Like, have somebody preview it before you send it out and ask them what they think. Don't lead them into thinking that it might be something that is too boastful or bragging or whatever it might be. Just ask what they think. Then if they don't give you, they either give you that response or they don't give it to you, then ask the direct question and be more obvious and say, hey, is this sound like bragging about what we're doing? And the one is kind of like an unaided question. The other one's an aided question. So the aided one, be a little careful. Don't weight it too heavily. The first one, you want to weight really heavily. If they uncover that you're coming across that way, that's when you got to be really concerned. But that type of extra little sniff test can be so valuable. The whole doing it for the wrong reasons is number 2. That is something you want to avoid. It is so clear when somebody is trying to do this to just gain access to wealthy people or trying to get new prospects in the door. If your wording at all gets too salesy when you're meeting these people, or your marketing is just too obvious, the call to action is too much in their face, it's going to backfire. So you really want to make sure that you're making it all about helping that cause, that nonprofit, that charity, helping them succeed in their mission, and be passionate about it. That's when, like that passion, when that comes out, that's what wows people. That's what wants them to want to work with you and team up with you. So think about what are those things that you could do to try to avoid it. Work on your wording. If you're going to be the MC of an event, make sure you script it a little bit and rehearse it just so you don't accidentally let the wrong thing slip out. I don't want you to read from a script because I want you to make sure you make like an empathetic connection. And if you're reading a script, you can't really do that, right? So whatever it is, how are you going to convey that passion so you come across the right way? Number 3, tips to avoid for cause-related marketing is to not do it just at the company-wide level. So you might have a team of, I'm making up a number, 10 people. Maybe it's more, maybe it's less. And you do everything at the corporate level, you don't necessarily make a great connection then, right? It has to be down to the individual level. You have to be careful because you don't want to force something on your employees that they have to support a certain charity. But it's kind of cool if you can make the connection that the company supports similar things as the employees or the associates. And then what really works is you can filter this through all your marketing communications, all their activities. So from a company-wide perspective, all the things you're doing at that level, all the way down to those individuals. So a bio is a perfect example. For financial advisors, I know that if a prospect is visiting your site, probably the top three pages that they're going to look at in that ranking is the bio page, because humans want to work with humans and they want to make a connection. And guess what? They go to that bio, they see that it's not just words on paper, but they see that the person is really passionate about the charity and the cause. And guess what? Those wealthy people that really care about that cause too, now they're going to like that person before they even meet them, right? And so that initial, what I use all the time, Google had coined the 0 moment of truth. Like, they're actually going to make a purchase decision whether they use a product or service before they ever meet you now with online research. And so the bio page, if you know that's in the top 3 things that they go visit, and you can use your own analytics to prove that, to make sure that's the case, and it's not just a speaker blowing a lot of hot air. They're going to your bio page. Humans want to work with humans. Well, guess what? How could you make that connection? Philanthropy is a wonderful, wonderful way to do it. And I would say that you want to actually not just do it in words too, pictures and videos. A picture tells 1,000 words. It's so true now. There's too many words in the world, and it's only going to get worse. So a nice headshot is great on a bio, but guess what? Like rolling up your sleeves on a volunteer day, or helping somebody that you go on a mission in a foreign country, that type of stuff, it's going to make a bigger connection. This one's a little tricky. Number 4 is misalignment with your business. So there is times where a nonprofit just isn't a match. And you need to be careful that it aligns with your company and your client base and et cetera. The Bud Light case study, whether you believe what they did is right or wrong, it backfired, right? And they put something on the can that offended their clients and their customers, and they revolted. Just be careful about misalignment. It's rare that something's going to come up, but there are people that, for example, politics is a number one. Like, there's people that just wear that stuff on their sleeve, and that's how they want to make a connection, and that's their cause. Well, guess what? You might lose half your client base if you go too far left or right on the political spectrum. Religion's one you got to be a little bit careful of, but misalignment doesn't just have to be those kind of major things. It could be something that's even smaller. So be careful what you do from a company level, personal level, and how that all aligns with the people that you serve and the prospects that you want. Number 6 on the things to avoid with cause-related marketing is really about being a small fish. I see some organizations want to team up with a big national nonprofit. You're such a small fish, you're really not going to make a big dent in, let's say you give $10,000, and that's a huge amount for you and your budget and all that, just using a round number. But everyone else at the national level is given $1 million. Like, so obviously you're a small fish and you're not going to get the reward on your cause-related marketing. But now say that same $10,000, you go to the local nonprofit that is really struggling, and you just made their year, right? Like, you became one of their top donors. You don't have to do it just by local and national. I get that, but something you want to factor in, like, where can you have the most impact? And it's nice to see, like, where does that support go? Whether it's resources, so it's time or dollars. If you're actually volunteering, it's kind of nice to see that you're actually making a local impact. But there are times where maybe you're supporting a hospital and you help. That's kind of a medium-sized charity, so it's not quite national, but it's bigger than your little local charity. But you can have a really good impact with the money that you're giving for the emergency room. They're improving it and they're doing X, Y, and Z, and they put a sign in there for you, whatever it might be. Like, you actually have some benefit that you could see. That might be where you start to drift to the bigger nonprofits that you focus in on, but just something to be careful that you might want to avoid. Number 7 on the things to avoid with not giving and trying to get something out of having a strategy for cause-related marketing is getting spread too thin. Literally, I've seen someone have a charity-related page on their website, and they had like 50 things. And to the person that just goes and visits them, maybe they're doing online research before they've ever reached out to that firm, they're just going to think it's all a bunch of things that are thrown up. Like, there's no real depth to any of those relationships. Oh, yeah, just because they write a $10 check to that charity, now they're going to put their logo up on their page. Like, so you got to be a little cautious about making it spread too thin. maybe create some themes, so early education, or kids that are suffering from illness, or hunger, fighting hunger, or whatever it might be. Then you can actually have like 3 or 4 charities around that. I'm just making up those themes. You don't have to have that, but just be cautious about those things that are you're just kind of all over the map. That strategy that's just blanketing everyone. I mean, it's nice to get that coverage so a prospect will feel like, oh, there are my charities on the list, but if it's 1 of 50, is that really going to have that much impact? Earlier on, I had said, avoid doing it just at the company level and make sure you incorporate your employees. This is where it gets a little tricky. Let's say if you have 50 employees or 100, and they all do different things, guess what? You might want to say, hey, and here's who our employee support, and actually just list them. But be careful of that one. Just, I don't think you want to limit who those employees donate to and support. But if it isn't a theme, it's not going to be as impactful. Number 8 on things to avoid is you just got to be transparent. You don't be too secretive of what you do. An obvious example is, hey, we did a fundraising event and we raised $15,000. 1, do you let them know what you raised? 2, do you let them know what the cost was so they know the net profit or the net money that will go to the cause? And do they have a way of seeing that you got the money to that nonprofit? This is where I can remember the people holding up the big checks when I was little. I remember one of my friends his dad used to do that big check, and he would go to the charity and give it to him, but the big cardboard check. Always a joke, like, do you really deposit that at the bank? But that kind of handoff is just that transparency, and it is a cause-related marketing thing, right? You're obviously a photo op and maybe a video opportunity. How could you be more transparent about it? You can even make it up front as part of the invite and just say, hey, here's what we expect to raise. Here's what the costs are expected to be. If you can have something where you say, okay, we're going to have this nice event. We're going to try to raise some money. I'm just making up round numbers. You're going to try to raise $20,000, but the event is going to cost $10,000. This is really cool where you could say, we are going to eat the cost of the entire event. So every dollar raised is going to go to that nonprofit. And oh, by the way, it's going to go to this specific cause within the nonprofit. That can be really powerful, that transparency. If you're doing other things, I don't think you have to go and write down every hour you volunteer at, but, being seen and letting people know what you do kind of goes to that transparency, right? They know that you're not a fraud, that you're not in this for the wrong reasons, that you're passionate about it. So up to a certain extent, showing what you do, it can be valuable too. Not keeping promises is a big one. So if you say you're going to do something and then you don't do it, that can really backfire. So if you're going to do an event and you're not getting the attendance that you hoped for, be careful that you don't just kibosh it. You might want to just fight through it and have it not be so successful and work on it. But whatever that over-promising and under-deliver might be could really turn someone off. So be careful that you don't do that. I have seen it happen before, so I would caution you that it's not something that you ever plan on or try to do. Like a golf fundraiser, for example, you have a rain out and then you don't make it up. That's kind of over-promising and under-deliver. It's not your fault that a thunderstorm came in, wiped it out. You called it. It made sense. It was the right thing to do, but now you got to follow up and try to make it right and put the extra effort in. Number 10 on the list of 15 things to avoid with cause-related marketing, and this is a big one, probably should have had it earlier up, but is guilting your clients. So, okay, you do something that you really are passionate about. Guess what? Your clients might not care about it, right? So if you paint them in a corner where they feel like they have to come to your event to support what you're doing, even though they don't care about it, or you make them feel like they have to write a check, that stuff can really, really backfire. So you have to be wording it, whether it's a marketing communication, an invite, whether it's an in-person type of conversation, invite, or follow through, whatever it might be. You have to be really careful that you're not making them feel awkward. And you can read the room a lot of times, but with marketing, you can't. So you have to be careful. Even just how many times do you pound them with the invite? Is it one and done? Is that the right number? Maybe that's not enough, but if you hit them over the head 10 times with, you got to come to my thing, that could backfire. So a really big one is to not make your existing clients feel like they're guilted into doing something. One that I've seen clients do by mistake is they have all the right intentions and great plan and everything's going great, but they don't loop the nonprofit in. And so like they start to do this co-branding work and they're putting the logo of the nonprofit in, the email communications, the invite, the website, whatever it might be. And by the way, they never reached out to the marketing director for the nonprofit. They have their own brand standards. Obviously, they have to kind of know that there's some benefit coming to them if you're going to be leveraging their brand, right? Because you're going to have some benefit by tying in with them. So I think it's only fair to know up front what you can and can't do. A big national organization is going to probably be pretty strict. A smaller organization is going to be much more likely to bend over backwards to get those extra resources in, time and dollars. Think about what that might look like and think about how you can work with them, whether it's a legal contract and it's really formal, or think about just a nice quick phone call just to say, are we on the right path, and get the agreement. Maybe have them follow up with an email just so you have something in writing. Earlier I said, don't be boastful and too much out there, like bragging about this stuff, but also don't keep it a secret. And this is where certain things will allow for positive publicity. Maybe a press release, maybe inviting a member of the press to something. You always see like the ribbon cutting ceremonies. You see the events, all types of really cool events that happen. You see that cardboard check idea that I said, and so on, right? So you're doing some great things. Unfortunately, the media likes to cover a lot more negative things than positive things, but they need to balance it a little bit. So maybe it's 9 negative things to 1 positive thing. So there is a news opportunity out there. So how can you get some positive publicity, and where does that fall? Before it happens, during whatever's happening, or at the end when the results come in? Maybe all 3 of those things can come together. Number 13 on the list of 15 things to avoid is not having a plan. I see this all the time. Like sometimes the nonprofit steers the ship, drives the car is where I was going. And so our client that we work with on the for-profit side doesn't have a clue what's going to happen next. Or they get too busy and they haven't really thought it out, and it's just kind of when they get time to it, when it comes top of mind, when they have enough dollars to donate. I really think it's much better if it has some consistency, if you have a plan. So maybe it's a 5 or 10 year plan and it's something really robust and big, but in the reality, it should be a year plan with probably a 3-month project plan that rolls up underneath that. So here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to achieve that. Here's the project owners. Here's all the steps that need to get done underneath that. So it's not just like that higher end business plan. It actually gets down into the weeds of project plans and how you're going to carry out what you're trying to do. Number 14 on the list is not being consistent all the time. And this kind of goes with not having a plan, but if you're kind of just flying by the seat of your pants, there's no consistency in the messaging. And if you don't have that consistent message, it's not going to be as impactful. So imagine if you care about a charity and you weave them in from your giveaway. So at the end of the year, you actually give your clients a donation to that charity made in their name. Oh, by the way, then you did an event 3 months later, and oh, by the way, you did a little fundraising effort for them, and oh, by the way, you did this other little thing, and now you've strung some things together. That cadence, the cadence marketing thing from marketing and sales, I've talked about it before. That's going to make it more successful than just kind of the one-off for there and the one-off for there, one-off for there. I mean, that's better than nothing, but if you have that well thought out plan and then you are consistent with your messaging, you're consistent with your activities, it's going to be that much more impactful. And number 15, with cause-related marketing, one of the things you really want to avoid is not having metrics for success. So I talked about having a plan, but if you don't have the metrics for success within the plan, you don't know if this is going to work or not. So with cause-related marketing, this could be part of your marketing budget. It could be part of your sales activity. Those things should all be held accountable. What are those things you're trying to achieve? And are they delivering the results? Is there a positive return on investment on them? So think about it from a business standpoint. You're trying to do some great things, but if this is part of your marketing or sales activity, and those budget dollars, are they working? The other thing I would say is, compare it A versus B. So one might be a traditional marketing activity and one might be cause-related marketing. Which one's more successful? And if you see the cause-related marketing one is not as successful, should it be replaced? Should you go back to that kind of more traditional marketing? Or is it just a nice to have because you really want to do something nice and it's just an extra benefit that you get something out of it? So be careful. Well, actually, I would say just go in knowing what you want to achieve, have the plan, have the consistency, and then actually have the metrics to succeed and track them. And then plan the next year around. And like every time you get an opportunity to look at this, just say, how can we tweak it a little to make it better? So those are the 15 things to avoid when it comes to cause-related marketing. With cause-related marketing, there are a whole bunch of things you can do with marketing. So I want to have just a couple examples. One is creating the warm fuzzy. So your content, whatever it might be, is whatever the connection is that you're doing with the cause, you actually get some goodwill out of it. And when somebody sees it, that warm fuzzy feeling, oh, it makes me feel good just to know that they're doing that stuff. That's the connection. So from a content marketing standpoint, how do you get that across? What's the messaging? What might that be? And part of that's the co-branding, right? So you're bringing in their brand and vice versa. So sometimes the brand is going to live in your environment, your industry, your ecosystem, and other times it's going to be in theirs. And maybe that's a good thing too, right? Your brand is getting exposure where it normally wouldn't, and vice versa. And so that's the benefit. That's the benefit of that partnership and coming together. Number 2 is with website marketing. I'm a really big believer in visuals. And so one of the clients we worked with once, financial advisor, and they had a new website project and I was involved, and I was working on the strategy, and they had a slider. Some people call it a carousel. And here's the things we want to put in there. And I gave them the results before it came out, and I said, you need to do this, and they didn't believe me. And so that idea was that they show their philanthropic activities in the slider. And they didn't want to do it. They wanted to have their services, who they help, and they also wanted to have some like economic stuff and some research stuff. And so I think we had a slider of 10 things that went through. The last one was philanthropic. And I remember they were all sitting on a volunteer day. I believe it was a Ronald McDonald House. They all had T-shirts. So it was like a bench with the statue of Ronald McDonald, and they were all around it. That one thing was clicked on more than anything else in the carousel. And it wasn't just one-by-one comparison. All the other things added up were less than that last one. So it had the last chance to get clicks, but it got more clicks than anything else. And so this is knowing your audience. Again, we talked about it earlier. If your clients are philanthropic and that's one of their major things that they care about, don't get upset that they don't care about what you do for a living. They're paying you money to do that, right? They might care more about that human side and wanting to get to know you. And that's, being philanthropic and caring about charities is a wonderful way to do that. So test and learn. Websites are fantastic for that. You can see what works and what doesn't work. Number 3 on the marketing ideas is thinking about how can you share this content. I think you want to look at website marketing is obviously one we just talked about, but e-newsletters and email marketing, direct mail, it's expensive. Nonprofits are probably not going to have a lot of dollars for that, but this is maybe they could have a little money, but maybe it makes it worth it to tie it in, and it's going to have more results, so it'll have a positive ROI. Social media, fantastic way. The nonprofits live on social media now, especially I talked about a triangle of donors. The really wealthy ones are here. If they're going for the lower tier, the mass affluent or lower, Social media is a fantastic way to go after them. And those bigger people use social media too. So there's ways to kind of come up with a strategy of communicating with social media. What does it look like? I've worked with some clients that have terrible amount of followers, and then they go to the nonprofit and they have 100,000 plus, and the audience is already built in, right? They've now figured out a way to have that reach. Another interesting thing too is sometimes there's influencers. You got to be careful with compliance and legal reasons, but influencers care about what you're doing and they might share it and it goes out to 1 million people. So you can have a really impactful cause-related marketing strategy based in the foundation of a viral marketing campaign. So that without that cause-related marketing, the viral part would never happen. So think about what that might look like. And so that's another way to use marketing. Video content is wonderful. The nice thing about video content, we'll do a whole bunch of videos and recordings on videos, but one is you make this human connection. People can see you. I hope you kind of get to know who I am by watching this. The reality is when you're actually doing something philanthropic and they see you do that and humans see your human side, that video is so impactful. So start to build out a video strategy. It has to be one of those components of cause-related marketing. I don't say it has to, but I would say it's critical if you want to be successful to try to figure out what that might look like. And I think that if you build that out, you'll be more successful. Events is the fifth thing I want to talk about in marketing. So I talked about a whole bunch of event ideas that you could do and you could come up with the idea. One really impactful event idea is to go to the nonprofits event. So they have this big gala and you have to pay a lot for the table. Let's say you get 2 seats at a table and that's expensive. Compare that to if you were trying to do your own event and what would it mean to get 8 good leads? Well, now you're sitting at a table, let's say it's a table of 10 and you have 2 seats there. Compare that to doing your own event, paying for everything versus just buying those seats at the table and getting exposure to those wealthy people. And by the way, it's not just those people at the table. The people that you meet at the bar, the people that you meet here and there. And so maybe it's at the silent auction table and you get to meet some people. Whatever it might be, don't think about event marketing as just your own events. What are those synergies? How can you cross over into their events and make them your events too? So a ton of great ideas on how to be more successful with cause-related marketing. I really hope that you take away the most important thing is you're just doing it for the right reasons. If you're a good person, it just naturally shows and people reward you for that. People like to work with humans and they like to work with kind humans. So it's going to show your best side and your company's best side. It'll be part of your own brand and part of your company's brand. So a wonderful, wonderful way to incorporate some good into the business that you do. Thank you for your time. This has been another episode Business Bests. Again, I'm Mike Byrnes. I really appreciate you tuning in. Thank you.